Welcome to Defending the Windy City with David Drwencke, where we delve into the world of criminal defense law with experts who navigate its complexities every single day. I'm Sam Henninger, and I'm excited to interview the renowned criminal defense attorney and founding partner of DRD Law LLC, David R. Drwencke. Thanks for coming on, David.
Hey, Sam, thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
What's your background and your journey in criminal defense law and founding your firm?
You know, it sounds corny to start this way, but it's true. I wanted to be an attorney when I was a child. When we go back with my family and look at preschool and kindergarten and first grade of what do you want to be when you grow up, my answer was always an attorney. And nobody could really explain why that was. I mean, including myself. I just knew that's what I wanted to do, but didn't know why. It just sounded like an interesting job. I knew it helped people. I knew that it was an important job. But until I got a little bit older, did I really learn that it really was a calling. But because I wanted to be an attorney from such an early age, everything I did was in preparing myself to be a litigator, to be in the courtroom in order to help people. So from high school into college, I knew I wanted to be pre-law, that I wanted to go to law school. When I was in law school, it was focusing on the classes and electives and programs and internships and externships that were about being in the courtroom. And my first legal job was actually, even before I started law school, was as a law clerk. So I could work with a judge in the courtroom around attorneys and prepare myself to be a litigator, because this is what I've always wanted to do. And I love it. There hasn't been a moment that I've gone back and said, man, did I really make a mistake? This was a terrible decision. I should have gone to medical school or something like that. I love it. And it's been a calling from as young as I can remember.
Very interesting to me, because you're right. Perhaps not everybody has that same kind of feeling when it comes to law, especially criminal law. So tell me more about where that passion came from and what drove you to want to help those who are accused of crimes and do it. I think in particular, it's so powerful to have somebody on your side who is non-judgmental through a process as vulnerable. And
part of it is, I think, is just my personality. There's two parts. I like to perform. And being an attorney, you're in front of the judge, you're in front of the jury, you're making an argument on behalf of someone else. In the criminal context specifically, it's when they're at the lowest, scariest moment probably of their life, especially if they've never faced a criminal charge before. So it's that first part of just liking to perform, liking to be up in front of people, being comfortable doing public speaking, thinking on my feet, advocating for someone. And then it's the second component that I'm just a competitive person. I like to win. And that's been that way in everything. Again, as a child, if it was playing video games or board games, to working through high school and college, I played college basketball at Albion College, that I want to win at everything. And there are winners and losers in litigation. There are real stakes. There are real consequences in these cases. And it's satisfying that when I get a win, if it's at a trial and you get a not guilty, there's no better feeling. You walk on cloud nine, knowing that you really helped somebody and saw them through such a difficult time. Or when you negotiate a plea, because sometimes winning in my line of work isn't just getting the not guilty. That's certainly what you see on television. That's the goal of every case. But sometimes it's just getting someone through this tough situation, through to the other side with the least amount of damage to their reputation, to their career, avoiding jail time, avoiding a criminal background by negotiating something that doesn't go on their background. And a big part of achieving either one of those goals, if that's going to trial and being successful and getting a not guilty, or it is negotiating out the right plea agreement, that's getting to know your client and understanding we're all human beings. We make mistakes. We find ourselves in just crazy situations that many other people may not find themselves in, that just through the grace of God, they didn't find themselves in that position, that they had a gun stuck in their face and they had to defend themselves, that they were at a party and they didn't know that somebody else was possessing a gun or drugs or whatever it may be, or any other number of situations that I find myself in defending someone, and understanding that this is scary, it's anxiety inducing, it's the fear of the unknown, or we routinely think the worst, that we've received a criminal charge. My life is over. I'm going to go to prison. I'm never going to be able to get a job or any of the other. These are the thoughts a lot of clients have, when in reality, it's, it's not going to be that bad. Let's talk about this. Let's find out what the evidence is, and I'll see you through to the other side. And it has nothing to do with what you're charged with. It's about what the state has as evidence. It's a saying I use every day. I'm not worried about what the state says you did. I'm focused on what they can prove and getting you through this as painlessly as possible. And that's part of the job as the attorney, of course, is to represent a client's interest. But sometimes it's just answering the questions and doing some literal and figurative hand holding through the process.
There's this famous statue where Lady Justice is holding the scales of justice, right? But she's also blindfolded. And so when I think about law, I think about, for everything you just said about the humanity, the emotions of this whole experience of interacting with the law system, especially when it comes to criminal cases, it can feel so disheartening at times, just like you said, to have to go through all that. But I really appreciate how you're saying there is this human aspect to it all, where we're trying to reduce pain as the attorney, and we're trying to just get them through in as painless a way as possible. And so this juxtaposition between the humanity of it all, but also it can sometimes feel like a heartless system that it's about justice, right? And so I'm very interested in hearing more about how some of your earlier experiences, perhaps as a judicial law clerk, has influenced the way you defend clients and go through your trials and legal proceedings.
Of the things that I've done in my past, as far as getting to where I am today, the single most valuable time was as a judicial clerk. Now, that was spent in Oakland County, Michigan. I worked just shy of 7 years for a trial level judge. His name was Rudy Nichols. He's retired now, though I still have communication with him, and we chat on the phone every now and then. But what was so beneficial about this is that I was in the courtroom almost every day. And that would be between civil cases, when we're really talking about money, and then the criminal cases, which is always what I just felt drawn to. It was what you would see on television. Most movies and TV shows are not about civil cases. They're about people facing charges. But what was so valuable about it was getting to witness it. I got to be an armchair quarterback. I got to see the state's attorney or the prosecutor. I got to see both public defenders, court-appointed attorneys, and private attorneys do their job. But I didn't have any stake in the game. I was there to watch and learn and be an aide on behalf of the judge, but I got to see very good attorneys. I got to see, in my opinion, very poor attorneys, and then certainly everything in between there. And I got to learn and take things that I liked. It's like, man, that was really smart. I want to do it that way. Or how attorneys would earn their reputation based on what they would do, not just the results they would get, but how they would carry themselves in the courtroom. And I would take that away. I have a notebook with me to this day of notes and ideas and thoughts. There are attorneys that I think about almost on a daily basis, like, do it like he did it, or do it like she used to do it, and avoid doing it like some of these other attorneys did it. And as it relates to criminal law specifically, is that your client is always a person. It is not a corporation. It's not some entity. It's an individual that I need to have a conversation with. And those stakes, those consequences really are only borne by them. If this doesn't go the way we want, or we don't work out the right plea agreement, or we don't win the trial, I'm going to have a conversation with that client. We're going to look at one another face to face and say, this didn't go the way we wanted, or it did. And that is one way of really grounding yourself and constantly being focused on who at the end of the day is going to benefit, or they're the person who's going to be punished out of this. And that's what keeps me focused to work on these cases and not lose sight of the fact that there are real consequences with real people here. This isn't just, not that money isn't nice or great, but this is somebody's livelihood. Their reputation is on the line, and they potentially could be going to prison. The type of cases I handle routinely have dire consequences if it doesn't go the way that my client wants. So I got to see that for years. Again, almost 7 years when I was a clerk, and then worked at a couple of law firms, again, where I was just getting a taste of this, but got to learn from some great attorneys, ask questions, see it firsthand. But at the end of the day, learn that these are real people with families and loved ones and children. and they have their own career and their own aspirations and future at stake with this. And that keeps me focused. And that's what drives me to get those results. Besides the fact that I love doing this and I like winning, I know there's a real person there that I'm going to have a conversation with at the end of this. And I'm going to be held accountable because it's my job to defend them and get the best results possible.
So far, we've heard there's this competitive nature to you that loves to win and get the results. There's this empathetic aspect of things, of seeing people at their maybe lowest point in life, scariest point in life, and helping them in that moment. Then there's the drama of the courtroom that you love as both a spectator and a participant. So I really want to hear more about, given the experience you've had, the people you've seen, good and bad, be the litigators, be the advocates, what sets you apart?
There's a few things. Some might immediately jump out during this conversation. I'm pretty enthusiastic. I'm energetic. I'm legitimately passionate about this. I love this. And I can say from both my experience as a clerk and now being an attorney and being in the courtroom quite literally every day now, that that's not true of every attorney. This is their job. They don't love it. Maybe they got backed into this. Maybe it was the family that pushed them into becoming an attorney, but they're not living and breathing and loving this in the way that I really am. It's not just a saying, I love this. I'm doing what I wanted to do when I was a child. Now, as far as a litigator, one of the things, even in this interview, we've got video that sets me apart that you can't quite tell is I'm 6'9", about 280 pounds. I'm a big guy. And that physical appearance, and it can be beneficial to my clients, that I'm the biggest bully in the courtroom, though I'm usually doing it with a smile on my face. But I love this. And again, that enthusiasm and that passion really will show through to a client during a consultation, or it's that performance element that, again, I'm in my element to be performing, to be advocating for my client, to be making an argument, and that it's not this monotone, this is the evidence and you're going to hear this, and going through the paces, or someone who apparently didn't know that public speaking was going to be a part of the job. I relish that. I'm good at it. I love it. That's fun. I get the excitement and adrenaline that I can only compare to when I played college basketball, that getting hyped up before a game and knowing that you're going to perform and there's a winner and a loser. That's there again. And I love that. So what sets me apart? Passion, zealousness, that this is my personality to perform and to speak and to advocate. And that because of those things, because I love it, because I'm good at it, I also invest in myself. I invest in the firm heavily so that we are utilizing the best technology and tools, that I'm up on the law, that I can present myself and my client in the best light possible, always, because I just love this, that my job doesn't stop at 5 p.m. or as soon as I walk out of the courtroom. I'm actually excited about learning more about what is the latest case law. What's that new bit of technology or software or a tool that I could be or should be using because it's going to help my practice work better or more efficiently so that I can get better results for my clients. And that all comes from that foundational point of just being passionate about this and loving it, that this, I legitimately enjoy what I'm doing, and that exudes into what I actually do every day, and then into the basic stuff about how I run my firm and the tools and technology we use.
You mentioned how having a bit of physical presence really aids in the line of work that you do, and being the biggest bully in the courtroom, so to speak. What's a memorable experience that you have where you demonstrated defending your client's rights?
There's a few examples that come to mind. One of the funniest ones would have been when I was very early in my law practice, and it was just the way the courtroom was set up. It was actually in Wayne County, Michigan, Detroit. It was one of the first appearances I ever got to have in court, and we were just arguing. It was actually a civil case, and I was arguing a motion. It was the other side's opportunity to speak, and we were basically standing right next to one another. Again, it was just the way the courtroom was lined up. And before opposing counsel even got into speaking about the case or making an argument about the motion, he commented on my size and said something to the judge about, I'm kind of intimidating, counsel is so tall. And it just threw everybody off, including the judge. She made a face. It's like, counsel, let's just focus on the argument here. But it hit me. It's not that I wasn't aware that, being tall could be intimidating. It can be scary. It's like, this is a really, really big guy right here. Let's not make him angry, even though, again, I'm usually smiling. But it's like, call it a weapon. This is an advantage for my client. So then when it comes to actual litigation, now we're in the courtroom, that I get comments routinely, even from the state's attorney, which oftentimes could maybe be the best compliment, is that you command that room. All eyes are on you, and it's a combination of how you speak and the enthusiasm and passion that you speak with. But it's also like you can't teach 6'9". Like when you stand up, people are going to notice, even if they don't want to listen to you. Like you have that stature, you have that physical advantage that again other people don't have because they're not 6'9". So while I lean into that, absolutely, that again, that's both voice and physical presence, and you can even tell now I gesture a lot among other things, but this is all a part of the performance and advocating for a client and getting a judge or a jury to listen to me and to listen to our argument and to take us seriously. And I know that at the end of the day, win or lose, that my client will get a fair shot because I'm going to require it, and my presence and know-how and knowledge is going to require that. But also because I'm taken seriously, because again, I'm the biggest guy in the room always. That's never not been true in my entire career.
It makes a lot of sense now that you'd be such a big sports fan. I don't know that someone of your height could get away with not being involved in sports. And so with the sports and your interest in technology, you mentioned how reading up and studying what's going on, how can this affect my job? How can I improve myself with implementing better technology? Tell us more about how those two interests really complement your work.
It's true. When it comes to my own personal preferences, what am I interested in? If I'm not talking about the law, which is most of the time, I'm obsessed with it. I love it. It's sports or it's technology. People who have known me my entire life know that whatever the new gadget is that's coming out, I'm going to be fighting myself not to buy it or be an early adopter. And that's been cell phones, laptops, all kinds of new technology, the Apple Vision Pro, everything. I'm sitting there just aching to try it out because it's new, it's innovative. And that's how I want to be. I want to be cutting edge. Well, now those interests in sports and technology have bled right into being a law firm owner. That there is all sort of technology and software and hardware that lawyers can be using. And I make an argument should be using. Like these are the best practices. If you're trying to service your clients in the best way possible and get the best results possible, you need to invest in the firm. And that's from having an iPad and your laptop and case management software and legal research software. And one of the newest, it's a little less than a year now, I've invested in an artificial intelligence co-pilot of sorts or co-counsel of sorts that I invest in. It is not cheap, but it is an incredible tool when it comes to legal research, which allows me to do more or to service clients in a better way. So it's this Venn diagram of I love gadgets, I love sports and the competitive nature, what's involved with that. And now I read up on, learn about these tools that are out there. It's like, this gives me a half a step advantage over the state's attorney. This gives me maybe multiple steps ahead of other attorneys that are doing criminal defense in Chicago that aren't investing in themselves. They aren't investing in their firm. They're doing the basics. They have a notebook, they have a laptop, and that's kind of it. They download things to their computer, and that's the end. They might be using Google or a friend's account to try to do legal research every now and then. It's like, that is not the way I want to present my firm. That's not the right way to present and represent my client. And so that takes time and money and investment in both of those, both time and money in order to do that. But I love it. Like I'm that person watching YouTube videos or reading articles about what's coming down the pike or the new update or the new bit of software or whatever it is. And I just love it. I've cycled through a number of things because I realize, well, this isn't serving my needs or my client's needs the best. So I'll move on to the next thing and go to that tool that's going to service them better. There's a number of things that there's software that I am effectively certain I'm the only attorney in Cook County, which is saying something because there's a lot of us that invest in a couple of these tools. Like I've yet to run into another attorney who uses these. And that's a competitive advantage for me, which again goes back to being a sports fan and liking to win and what have you. These all comes together. My interests bleed into my professional career. There's a lot of overlap, but I love it because at the end of the day, it allows me to do my job better and then do a better job for my clients.
Well, I'll say, just on the topic of AI, I do recall just as a layperson seeing some story about the unfortunate attorney who used ChatGPT to cite some cases that didn't actually exist. And so it makes a lot of sense that you would be so interested in it, because it indicates a lot of discernment in how you're implementing those technologies.
Well, it is important because, again, yeah, you can be an early adopter and you take the good with the bad. That if you're in version 1.0 or the first iPhone, as opposed to what's out now with the Pro Max and what the software and hardware can do, there's a learning curve. That's part of it. Some of it's the bugs that you got to work through. Not everything's infallible. Just because it's the latest and greatest doesn't mean it's ready for showtime. But I still like to get into it and realize, is this something that's going to help or not? And you still have to vet software. You still have to vet AI tools. You can't just do research, copy and paste it and throw it into a brief. That case that you're talking about is effectively what that attorney did by, this looks like a neat tool. I did a research query through ChatGPT. I copied and pasted it. And then lo and behold, I believe the term was that it basically made it up. It came like amnesia or whatever they want to call it, made it up. And none of these cases were real, and they got sanctioned as well. They probably should have. It's at the end of the day, it's your name at the bottom of the sheet that you're signing off on. But these tools can be very helpful. These tools can make you more efficient and effective. These tools are necessary when it comes to legal research or just servicing clients, the way I communicate with clients and having a portal for clients, having a repository for the discovery, the evidence. These are things that attorneys should be using, and come to find out, many are not, because it costs time and money, and they don't want to invest in that because there's an easier or less costly or free cost of entry. They'll just do that. And the only person who really suffers is ultimately the client.
If that wasn't just the great zinger to end this on, let me ask you though, just thinking back on this conversation, what would you say you'd want the listener to take away?
Especially in Cook County and in Chicago, there are a number of attorneys, a lot of excellent attorneys. But what you're going to come to find out if you call them and book a consultation is that not everybody loves this. Not everybody focuses singularly on criminal law. That's all I do. It's one of the first things I'll tell someone when they call. All I do is criminal law, period, full stop. Because I think to be very good or the best at something, you need to focus. I'm not a jack of all trades. I do criminal law. I invest in myself and the firm. And then at the end of the day, if there's one big takeaway, is that I love this. And when the stakes are high and the consequences are real, and you need to hire someone to stand between yourself and the state of Illinois, that you want somebody who loves this, who invests in themselves, who is passionate about that, and has every possible advantage, if that's technological or if it's education or training. Find that person, because they're more likely than not going to get you the results that you desperately want and need.
Thanks for watching Defending the Windy City with David Drwencke. I'm Sam Henninger. Like and subscribe.